about. So stick around. We'll be right back right after this with everything that is happening right now. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. Walking in the light of Jesus Christ. Walking in the all right. Jesus Christ. Walking in the what is going on? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. A later show tonight than normal. We are having technical difficulties with our call-in system once again. So we will not be doing calls tonight, but we have a packed show either way. We have a ton of stories to go over. Again, a lot is going on right now, including, of course, the verdict came out about Kyle. That was a big not guilty, which, of course, a lot of people are talking about. And then we are going to be talking about the new stuff that just came out about China, Russia, about the meetings as far as some of the, I guess, interactions that they just had today. And then, of course, we'll be talking about NASA and this new plan for a nuclear power plant on the moon, and they're asking for ideas. A lot of really weird stuff, especially considering a lot of the things that are happening right now, especially with entertainment, too. A lot of weird movies coming out. So if you are new here, just remember that every single article, tweet, video that we show you here today is going to be backed up with a bibliography. We give you the source for everything, so that way you know exactly where your stories are coming from. Now, when you go to our website, it's very easy to navigate. It is done by thumbnail, so you would go to Nuclear Power on the Moon, why? And then when you click on that, it will bring you straight to every single article, tweet, archive, document, anything that we show you here today, including normally if somebody suggests something in the chat or calls in with it, we will add it there. In fact, from a call on one of the last shows, or actually one of the comments, we added something to today's show that we will talk about tonight. It was a letter to the founder, to George Washington. And then on the bottom is web-only content. That is the stuff that is too hot for TV. A lot of crazy stuff is going on, of course, in politics. Anything that is too far to the left or right that, we can't cover without staying relatively neutral, or the stuff that gets people just knocked off the internet, period. That stuff is all on our website. So make sure to go check that out. It's free. And again, that's all available for you. We do the work before every show. Dex, let's bring in Dex. Again, Dex is going to be my co-host today and my internet brother for life. What is going on, Dex, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So I did want to let you guys know I am having sort of an issue with my lung, and also I spent all day with actually a family member in the hospital today. I don't know if this all of a sudden kicked up a notch because I was around people in the hospital or something, but I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to try my best to do today's show. But again, I've had kind of a long-term issue over the last 2 years. Some stuff is going on. So I would appreciate all of your positive vibes and prayers and everything else. I hope that it's just like a walking pneumonia, something like that. And then Chicanos Ray's grandson, thank you for your support early on in the show. Thank you so much. And then Jareen Shaw, Patissa, and then Pamela S. Thank you. I want to say thank you to Gone Girl 777. Thank you for heading over to PayPal last night and saying hello. I'll read the messages over there as well later on. Thank you as well. I hope you're okay and watching the replay, and wherever you are, you're safe and sound. So let's get straight into the news. We have a lot of it. So Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty on all counts in this trial. Now, after 4 days of deliberations, a lot of people thought that it was going to go the opposite way because, they thought there was going to be holdouts. Dex I'm sure at one point you said you thought that this might mean something bad because 4 days in deliberations aren't usually good.
Yeah, this is a long time, and there's no signs, at least from what one of the attorneys said after the trial today. I think it was his attorney said, there was no information coming out. Like they had no news that there was a dispute or that there was, a big, debate going on. So absent any of that, it just seems like they were just doing their due diligence and, being thoughtful about the process, which is good. I mean, you would actually, I've been on a jury, and I think others have too. And it's the whole point is you're judged by your peers. So you really want that process to be taken seriously and not be something that people who actually have to sit on a jury take lightheartedly, or just kind of, I just want to get out of here so I can go on my vacation, or get out of here so I can go home and have dinner. Right. So on that regard, it seems, obviously they spent a great amount of time debating it, and that duration of time certainly lends people to think one way or the other.
Well, because there were threats towards these jurors. Some of them appeared on TV. Some of them were identified. There were 6 alternates, and I believe the 6 alternates were not used. And those 6 alternates, so in 18 jurors total, were selected and had to sit there through this entire trial.
Right.
It is only 3 weeks, but that's a long time if you're doing it for. For whatever they pay a juror, $100 or something?
It's like $30 a day. And they actually had 20 jurors, and they ended up losing 2 throughout the process, which is not uncommon. I think one was kicked off because he told a joke about the event that started that event, and then to a security guard. So then that showed bias, so they had to kick him off. And then another one, I want to say she was pregnant. I can't remember if that's what it was, but there was a medical concern. She felt like she couldn't stay on any longer. So they lost 2 and then had 18 left to then select 12 from.
I don't know.
Actually, they used a lottery style, bucket where they, put the numbers in, and they had Kyle actually draw out the 6 people that were not going to be deliberating, which was kind of interesting. The tumbler, as
apparently,
they called it.
And apparently that it looks like something like a bingo hall would use. Apparently that is something that is actually quite normal there in that city or state. A lot of people.
It was used quite a bit by that judge over the years, so it's not an uncommon thing. It's just odd to the rest of the world.
Okay, so is it just that judge or something? Because I honestly, the debate on Twitter was back. It was so heated, and I can't stand how Twitter is so back and forth. It's like, if you look through the comments, we could spend a whole show going through any given subject, and it is so polarized. And basically, everyone's opinion is the opinion of one or the other news media. It's like you see their quote is literally copy and pasted from somebody else's mouth that is on their favorite news channel. And I just, nobody thinks by themselves anymore. It's mostly, whoever they heard, and usually it's on the side that they're already on, their echo chamber that they talk about. It's usually whoever they heard that sounded the most eloquent, that was the most convincing, or said it that made the most logical sense. And again, people can make logical sense out of almost anything with the proper speaking and the way that they communicate and the way that they say things. And so, literally, they've had people with British accents say things that don't make any sense, and people believe them because they sound smart.
Right.
They've done studies on this, and people believe it.
Well, and what's crazy when you listen to these sound bites, you can always tell the obvious uninformed sound bite is the same thing that's being repeated over and over again, and it goes something like this. The kid was driven there by his mom, crossed state lines with a weapon, and performed this act. Well, none of that is true. If you actually watch the trial, like none of that was true. The weapon was there. He actually had family there. He went in and out of town and worked there. His mom didn't drive him there. He drove himself, right? And he stayed at a friend's house, and that's where he got his weapon from, in the state. Like, so if you're gonna spew nonsense, like, you should at least have the facts before you spew it. So when you see these people repeat the same thing, and I'm talking high profile people will say the exact same thing, even today after he's already been acquitted, they'll say the exact same thing. And it's just like, okay, these are copy paste talking points.
Well, and I have a side that I really prefer more than the other, but I see both sides doing it. But I really do see it's like it's cold hard facts versus bias. I mean, like an actual bias, like they try to go against everything possible. I know that there are two sides, and the people that sit in the middle and say, oh, both sides do it, I see one side doing it a whole lot less. They're actually going by common sense. And I'm sorry, that's how I try to look at it really critically and say, is anything they are saying absolutely incorrect whatsoever? Is there any chance that they could be? And I'm talking facts. When you speak facts, actual facts, then it's a lot harder to, then it's a lot easier to decide which side is telling the truth. When you are, classically omitting facts from almost anything. I mean, I saw at 7 hours after the last kind of statement was made, CNN in specific made an article that omitted all sorts of evidence that we all watched, everybody that watched the trial. But here's the thing. They're counting on a ton of people that they want to get fighting with each other did not watch the actual trial. People like yourself and people like me, I watched a lot of it. I didn't watch all of it, but I believe you watched almost all of it, right? And
I didn't miss a single minute. I've watched every bit of
it.
And
so
streaming, even during the dull times when nothing was going on. Yeah.
So that there were a lot of actual facts in this thing, but it's still super split on this, and it's just unbelievable how divided we are.
I have a final thought, and that goes like this. Take out the politics, take out even the kid, right? There was two things that I took from this. One was, self-defense was preserved, at least in that state, in that county, as it was defined by their local politicians and people there. Like, that's what they wanted, and it upheld, right? And then the second thing that is interesting here is you have to look at how important alternative media or independent journalism played a role here. Because if you didn't have that, the only story you would have is this story that came from MSM, which we all know is so far from what the facts were when you go look at the case. And what the facts are in the case is really only there because there were hundreds of videos from independent journalists on all different sides of political spectrums, whether they were neutral or sided. It didn't matter. The videos don't lie, right? And all of that information sort of brought together the real picture, and the truth sort of prevailed.
And remind you, a lot of videos came out in the trial that you are not even seeing on Twitter. I mean, there was all sorts of stuff that came out in trial that nobody knew. And this is why I keep telling people, like, wait, when you see something and it happened 5 hours ago and people are already protesting or already doing this or that, it's like, wait until you see the whole thing. In fact, I don't even think he would be there if people would have possibly waited to see all of the information. But people, when they want to get up and get out right when it's hot, and it's just how human nature works. It's like when people are red in the eyes and they want to go out and take out their frustrations, they do it right then. They don't wait. Nobody's waiting. So, I mean, I don't even have to read this. Essentially, he would have faced a life sentence in prison. It's not guilty. Some think it's a big loss on one side, and some believe it's a big win for self-defense cases across the planet or across the country. And again, some people are watching this across the planet because this was a huge deal. This was something that caused unrest across the planet, like literally in other countries all over the place. That same event was happening all over the world. So that's what's really even crazier about right now is a lot of the stuff that is happening here is now happening in Europe, happening in Australia, happening all over the place. And it's so weird that, we're going through CV and we're all going through the same thing. We have more in common than we have ever had in common in the past 100 years, I think. Especially with CV, we're all going through the same stress. That's really unique. The same people that are in, Scotland or Australia are going through the same problems that, I'm going through in Seattle. That is really, really unique. So we should be coming together, not divided over stuff like this. It's just crazy. So, yeah, not guilty on all counts. And then Biden Reactor says he's fit for office after annual physical. It says President B's physician on Friday determined he was healthy and fit to execute the duties of the presidency following his annual physical the day before his 79th birthday. Now, one thing I don't get, he did his colonoscopy and all of this other stuff. It's like, do you think that doctor was going to say he's not fit for it? Did they include kind of mental tests, or did they just kind of put up a card and like, does this look like a butterfly or an ink blot? Oh, ink blot. Okay, good. You're good. Good to go. I would say, they should add a requirement is like basic remembering things, I guess. In fact, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, I wouldn't be a good president. But I would say, as far as like getting up and being able to even read without, forgetting where you put your stuff is kind of like, you would think that would be the a requirement for the highest office. The one thing is like Dex, they hold really high requirements for higher positions in companies. This is the highest position in the world. There is no higher position.
And this is also one of the oldest people, if not the oldest. I think he's the oldest to ever be sworn in. So, yeah. And it's interesting. They did address the two things that had been most recently commented on by the press, so to speak. And that was his consistent clearing of his throat or coughing or hacking. And the fact that he seems to be walking differently. So they did touch on those two things and sort of dismiss them as, part of, I want to say it was GERD and leftovers from his broken foot. If we remember when he tripped and fell with the dog in the bathroom or something like that a year ago and broke his foot and was in a boot for like a week or two.
I have the highlighted part here. It said O'Connor noted President B's broken foot he suffered roughly a year ago could contribute to the awkward walk, but he more broadly assessed President B was dealing with a spinal arthritis and peripheral neuropathy, meaning some loss of sensation in the feet. It said O'Connor also wrote that President B is experiencing throat clearing, so and increasing frequency and severity, and said that he attributed it to a digestive disorder known as gastroesophageal. I know I'm saying gastroesophageal reflux or GERD. President B's got the GERD. He's got a GERD in his throat. And then President B, of course, experienced occasional symptoms of gastroesophageal reflux, primarily having to clear his throat more often. This may contribute to occasional cough and sinus congestion. His symptoms are typically exacerbated shortly after meals, he wrote. So after he eats, okay. Either way.
And naps.
Yeah. By noon. Wow, and he's 184 pounds. That's actually more than I thought he would. That's actually more than I thought he would weigh. How tall is he? It didn't say how tall he is. Anyways, so they say he is healthy and fit for the job. What's up with all these high-ranking politicians having a foot brace, right? We saw Hillary with one. We saw what's his face? What was it? John McCain, I think, or something. Remember the whole thing about the?
Yeah, it's almost like the Black Eye Club, right?
It's weird. It's weird. If you guys know about the Black Eye Club, then Weird stuff. And then Billy Portner, thank you so much. Winton Dupree says they want chaos that keeps us distracted from the big power grab. What's crazy is it does keep most people distracted. Most people are focused on that. They're discussing that, or they're talking about whatever is going on currently. If you are constantly putting pressure on somebody and saying you have to do this, almost everybody is going to go, they're not focused on anything else because now things are affecting them. Once you affect every citizen in the country or someone around them, then all of a sudden they're in their bubble and all of a sudden something is on them. They're not then spending their time looking at what is actually happening outside of their world. Winton Dupree, again, good comment. Deborah Pratt, Rev19, Revelations 19:10 says, praying for your health, Adam, in Jesus' name. Hey, thank you. I appreciate that. And God bless you. Thank you for the prayer. I always hope it's not. Yeah. And then we have President B to get the colonoscopy today ahead of his birthday. We kind of covered that. And Kamala Harris will become acting president as he goes under. Wait a second. So did that already happen?
Yeah, that already happened. So she is now the first female acting president ever. And, she went in on, as I said, sort of jokingly, she went in with on a colonoscopy and ended it with the Rittenhouse verdict.
Wait a second. So since he went under, they swore her in and she was the president for a matter of however much time?
Yeah, that's correct. Acting president, as they would call it.
What in the world? What if they didn't undo it? What if, because remember, what the theory is, right? The theory is that it would be somehow that something would happen to him and then she would be sworn in. She was technically sworn in today. That's insane. That is really insane to me. Because he was out, he was technically knocked out, and since that was the case, they had to swear her in. Do they do all that publicly? Like, did they publicly swear him back in then? Does that mean he has to be, she has to be unsworn and then he's sworn in again?
Yeah, I think it's some sort of document he signs over, if I remember correctly. It's a transfer of power, and then it gets untransferred when he comes back out of that state. It's also interesting in here, they talk about other presidents, like this has happened with Bush and whatever, but apparently it happened under DT, and T-Man apparently chose not to go under. Apparently, they're saying he avoided anesthesia so that he did not have to transfer power. He's a tough man, I guess.
So T-Man, president, our last president, was awake for the whole thing. They were going up there, and he was awake for that, and because he was like, I ain't giving this up for even an hour. That is pretty bad. That kind of says something too. But back then, we should have saw that and go, okay, do you really trust your VP then? Like you didn't want to give it up for an hour. I don't think he trusted too many people around him, because look at what happened. Look at what happened with all the people around him. Almost all of the original people he ended up firing because he said he didn't trust him. And then NASA seeks ideas for a nuclear reactor. Sorry, I got a case of the GERD. A GERD. NASA seeks ideas for the nuclear reactor on the moon. So what do you think about this? I'm going to go over to the chat. I want to see what your idea on this is and why. This is like really kind of odd. It says, if anyone has a good idea on how to put a nuclear fission power plant on the moon, the U.S. government wants to hear about it. NASA and the nation's top federal nuclear research lab on Friday put out a request for proposals on a fission surface power system. It says NASA is collaborating with the U.S. Department of Energy's Idaho National Laboratory to establish a sun-independent power source for missions to the moon by the end of the decade. So just to...
Why don't they want to use the sun?
Yeah, why? This is really weird. Just to read that again so people know that. They want to establish a sun-independent power source for missions to the moon by the end of the decade. Is this really for the moon, or is this for here? Are we going to...
it's for the dark side.
Oh, that is freaky. And with this movie coming out, I wish we could do copyrighted stuff. I wish we could show this stuff, because the new Moonfall trailer came out and they extended it. They brought out that there's aliens involved in this new Moonfall movie, and it shows the moon crashing into Earth. But it also shows that in the moon landing, that apparently the 2 minutes that we lost contact, which is true, they say it wasn't true, and that they actually encountered this weird alien, watery, weird, matter-like alien, and that the moon, it shows in the end, was some sort of gyroscope spinning satellite, which of course has been a theory for years, that it's some sort of satellite or it's some sort of alien force or something is watching us, right? Well, it is really weird that China went to the far side of the moon just recently, and then, of course, now they're looking to make a nuclear-powered power plant that is sun-independent. Like, this is super weird. Something is off right here, and I bet you later on we're going to go back to this.
So what if this is a precursor to the Artemis mission, and they get this launched and they send it up there, and then they have some sort of accident, and now the place is contaminated and we can't go, and now we have an excuse not to go, because maybe, as some people suggest, it may not be possible. I don't know.
Right. Because some people think by the time we actually, we're all going to go to the moon, then it will be radioactive and nobody will be able to go, and they'll have an excuse of why, after spending trillions of dollars on something that never would even ever come to pass. Right. That would kind of back up some of the folks' theory that are in here that again might not believe in space in general. Right. Again, that is something that is a theory, right? It says providing a reliable, high-power system on the moon is a vital next step in human space exploration, and achieving it is within our grasp. That was Sebastian Corbisiero, the Fission Surface Power Project lead at the lab, said in a statement. And if successful in supporting a sustained human presence on the moon, the next objective would be Mars. NASA says fission surface power could provide sustained, abundant power no matter the environmental conditions on the moon or Mars. I expect fission surface power systems to greatly benefit the plans for power architectures for the moon and Mars, and even drive innovation for uses here on Earth. Okay, here's another thought. You need a sun-independent, say we don't have a sun, we need something that will power, regardless if we have sun or not. I wonder if they knew that a cloud was going to be wrapped around the planet for, say, 100 years or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, like something impacting, or say something like an event like, say, Yellowstone goes off. Now, a freaky fact that most of you probably know already, but a lot of the bison or buffalo, one of the two, have been leaving in droves from Yellowstone. And that freaked out a lot of people. They're like, why are the bison or buffalo leaving? Dex, did you hear about that? I don't believe we actually covered that.
No, I didn't. I'm looking it up.
Yeah, can we pull up any kind of documentation on that just to make sure that we back that up? Kristen Gary, thank you so much for your support. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. And then Billy Bob, thank you. Hey, thank you for going over to PayPal during the show. Says, we love you guys. Yeah, I like to support this way. It does not take as much. Basically, you said the same thing almost as Gone Girl. Thank you. And then Selena H. Thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Love you all. Keep up the great work. Over on D-Live, a lot of D-Love. Thank you, everybody that's dropping lemons. Thank you, guys. Jordan Bear, thank you for being there. Kit Skit Scat, thank you for gifting a 1 month subscription to Jordan Bear. Jordan B. Bear, I should say. Blowtorch Barbie, Maria Gonzalez, thank you for gifting out Marfia badges to people in the channel. And it looks like Blowtorch Barbie actually grabbed one. Deep State of Mind, Scooby-Doo Do-Right, Jammer1, Maria Gonzalez again, thank you. Maui Racing Realtor, Phil C, Bear Claws. We've got Chef Lee, Recalcitrant. And let's see here. And Dex, to help you out, if you're not finding it, it is about probably 2 weeks ago or maybe a week ago. Okay, I'm going to go over to the chat. Why do you think that they are asking for this power plant on the moon, and why do you think they mentioned specifically that it needs to be sun independent? Buffalo migrate, it's normal. Franning Cascadia, we'll show you what we mean.
Yeah, no, they actually do migrate out of there every year. And they were talking about it in February. I'm looking for something in the last 2 weeks. Hang on.
Mary Greeley covered that. Annual migration of bison. So I wouldn't even mention it if it was just the regular migration. It was something that was mentioned that was unusual, that it was not at the time of migration because they were smoking too many joints in the back room. Says Christine K. Rizar, the moon's Star Trek's lost ship. Cause this, somebody said something there that was good. To explore the dark side, says Texas Mama Mo. See your snow falling, gone members. I'm so happy for Kyle Rittenhouse. They left Old Faithful area, which is not normal. Okay, so 29 photos says that they left Old Faithful area, which is not normal. Trembling is higher in Yosemite, maybe, says Susan in the house. Nuclear power plants need to separate two separate power sources for 100 years here. Nobody is landing on the moon, says Joe Shields from Boston. Dark Side of the Moon is one epic album. That's that would definitely be agreeable on a lot of ends there. Space Race for distraction. Jordan B. Bear, that could very well be too. Yes, a lot more active lately, says Eris. So one thing though, I see that almost every subject is a distraction. So what is real? That's what I don't understand. If every last thing is a distraction, then how are you picking out truth? And I'm not saying it's bad to say that there are distractions. Is war with China a distraction? Because we've had real world conflicts, and that wasn't a distraction back then. And they had operations back then. They had psyops. They had all sorts of stuff. See, I believe we will go, and it's hard for people to grasp because guess what? People don't think that someone could sign something or push something through that's going to kill millions of people. But people do that all the time. Jim Lang says we are living in a simulation. Crazy rabbit hole if you go down that rabbit hole. U.S. Army small reactor experiment rod stick. Google bison leaving Yellowstone 2021 article. November 6th. Summer Love says bison leaving Yellowstone 2021 article. And I guess they found it. They were screaming, "Let's go, Brandon." The bison were saying.
Yeah, that's the second one that comes up on that is the one from February 2021, where it's talking about the bison migrating out of Yellowstone. But that was the annual migration. I can't find the other one that's unusual.
Huh. Well, if they're just migrating, then it's not a big deal at all.
So one other thought back to the nuclear reactor, though. We have been told by the elite that the solar generation is the future, right? But it seems to be that there's another side to that equation that is being told to us by a different set of technical people saying that, no, we need to have nuclear. When we've seen this, like with the expansion of nuclear power in China, right? Like they didn't say, hey, we're going to open up a whole bunch of solar farms. They said we're going to build 130 new nuclear power plants, right? And they're saying, hey, for power on the moon, we don't want to use solar. we need something that's nuclear, right? Well, especially when you get out of our atmosphere, the solar power that you can generate is even greater, or at least it should be more efficient and easy, especially when you have the ability to have a constant view. So it's kind of interesting when you think about these. Is this not that it's done for political purposes, but this is one side of the equation saying, no, we need nuclear power, versus other sides of the equation saying, no, it should all be, wind and solar.
Well, what else is, I always see these commercials saying, get solar power for free from the government. The government's trying to convert everybody to solar. Well, what if the earth is covered with a cloud like that, like Yellowstone goes off or something happens where there's a cloud around the planet? Then all of those people that converted over to solar, they won't have power at all. But the people that have nuclear power, then I guess they're okay, right? I don't know. I just thought it was kind of odd. Everybody's going towards solar, which would make sense if we always have the sun. But there are events that can happen that would block out the sun. Again, pretty interesting stuff. It's definitely worth following. Theta Mooned Me says, learning crypto can be prep. Hedge against inflation and ahead of the transition to the BS social credit system. Dex, ? Love y'all. And then Majimi, please use lung cleanse from Infowar store to heal your lungs. It healed mine after pneumonia, and I don't have asthma anymore. Majimi, I actually will try that. Or maybe just order it from wherever he orders his stuff. Billy Leather, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I really, really do. Thank you for your support. And then Diane, thank you for subscribing just now. Welcome to the Foogle fam, which, by the way, the main channel is so close to 200,000. Make sure to go over and subscribe to Marfoogle News. It is about to hit 198,000 subscribers. This channel is about to hit 168,000. So thank you. Closing in on 170,000 of you that have been here. So thank you. And then Theta Moonme says, just figured out how to donate more. Marf, the Quetzal bird in a box in the mural reminds me of Quetzalcoatl, serpent, sky dragon, Earth's Kundalini, trapped in a box. Suppress ascension, maybe. Good question. I don't know. And then before we talk about NASA has a plan to stop an asteroid from hitting Earth by slamming into it, I do want to remind you, well, we have shown you a ton of data on this, and the reason why is because I firmly believe it, and Dex firmly believes it. We have talked to several people, including some of the higher-ranking people that are actually in charge of this. Again, sometimes I wish we could have some of these people on our show because of some of the other subjects we've covered. A lot of these people, they say one thing, but they really mean another. As far as coming on our show, they probably don't want to be associated with UFOs or something else, but some of the higher ranking officials that are involved, and of course EMP Shield, this company is contracted with agencies like DHS and DOD. They are saying that this is one of the biggest threats to us ever. So if you are a prepper or if you have been prepping for years, then this is something that is a no-brainer. What this does is it actually grounds the signal before it can fry your devices, before it can fry your generator, before it can fry your car, before it can fry your home. This is the actual way that the U.S. government and other agencies are actually protecting. Again, their EMP Shield makes them custom government devices. And when the government gave them huge contracts, we didn't even know if these guys were still going to be selling to consumers. Luckily for now, they are still selling to regular people like us. And again, we were one of their first affiliates. In fact, I think we were their second, right? So we've had this really good deal through them. You can get $50 off per device. And then they've also done several things, like several giveaways and things just for the Foogle fam. That's because the owners and some of the founders are actually preppers themselves, and they watch the show. So it's really, really cool. Make sure to go support. It's 100% American made in Kansas, veteran-owned business, and it's the actual way to protect yourself against EMP, all three phases, E1, E2, and E3, and a Carrington level event or more solar flare protection up to 228,000 amps. Not to mention anything that you end up accruing these to, they will end up being protected against lightning. So if you are in an area with a ton of lightning, like in the Midwest, you can actually protect your home just by wiring this in. So again, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP if you have not already. Make sure to go over and use that. That will end up helping us, and it will end up helping you, and a discount. So thank you so much for anybody that has already done that. All right, and then Kristen Gary, more than grateful for what you do. Thank you so much. Means a lot. God bless everyone. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate all of the people that have been following us for years and have come to every show, even the late shows. Can't say thank you enough. So I have a lot of theories, and you know, some people say that, you know, well, which one's going to happen? Is it going to be Yellowstone? Is it going to be an asteroid? Is it going to be an earthquake? Is it going to be is it going to be nuclear war? I honestly, at this point, a lot of my theories do have a backing with the Bible and with some of the prophecy that has already come true. It very well could be all. And, you know, I always feel crazy saying that. But Dex, do you get what I mean if you say that, you know, I guess we're waiting for which one, right? But what if we did have an event where we had several of them come one after another? I guess it would be, even if you don't believe in any religion, it's like then you would believe in the science, and then you would believe that one of these things is bound to happen at some point. There's several things that can end us as an Earth. So why wouldn't you not think that, you know, one of these is eventually going to happen?
Well, yeah, I think part of it is, you know, you may not believe in one of the types, and that type could happen, and it still may not make you a believer because you may believe that it was fictitious, right, in the way it was produced. Whether it be, you know, a fireball from the sky versus a missile from the sky, right? You know, as an example, or whether it's a natural, you know, tsunami, or it was an induced tsunami from some sort of technology under the water, right?
Or it's a missile from the ground that goes up and comes back down, because there is no from up down, right? Either way, no matter what you believe, like you've said before, either way, we're going to see something happen. And on our end, it's going to be painful. It's not going to change the amount of pain we experience. It's not going to change the amount of stuff that we're going to need if the power's out for a year. You know what I mean? Like it either way, it's a good thing to prepare for things that are possibilities. And I think it's responsible, and a lot of people don't see it that way. They think it is crazy. But where does that thought of society thinking you're crazy for preparing or prepping, where does this thought that you are crazy for preparing for something that is a real possibility, that they have told us that it's not only a real possibility, that it's a high-ranking threat? For instance, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, telling us to have 6 months to a year of food. Now, U.S. government is now working with Facebook to find out who actually is preparing. Why? That doesn't make any sense to me. Now, they're not saying it's the U.S. government, but it's within a week of the U.S. government, Jen Psaki coming out and saying, you know, we're working directly with Facebook, and then they say, you know, who's prepping? Tell on your neighbors.
Yeah, in my experience with the tech and with the data and the things that they collect, that's more of a sign than it is something that they're going after. In other words, it certainly could be that they just want to know who's prepping. I think what they really want to know is that they've, with all of their data analysis over the last 4 years or 8 years, really, of looking at who's saying what and who's reacting, you know, to this this political thing versus that political thing. If they want to start categorizing people, they learn off of the things they do. So one of the big things that they can easily pick up is, in their mind, the people that are on those DHS warnings tend to be heavily engaged in being prepared. So therefore they say, well, if we know that, then what we need to do is find everybody who falls into that category, and then we can start labeling them as such. It's sort of like if they were looking for people who loved wine, and cheese, and people who love wine and cheese drive Porsches, and they could find people that drive Porsches a lot easier than they can find people that like wine and cheese. Well, then they could just find all the Porsche drivers and then sell them wine and cheese. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but so why do you think that Facebook did it to essentially try to
so they're getting after the
categorize?
same thing. Yeah, you're spot on. Like but what they're doing is they're saying, hey, this category or this type of person who does this activity tends to be in that. So we're going to identify them as much as we can so we can keep an eye on them or label them as the DHS wants them to be labeled as T's so that we can monitor them differently.
I would think if you were an adversary, you would want to know as much about your enemy as possible. And not saying the U.S. government is seeing us as an enemy, that could be a possibility. But what if China had infiltrated to the point where they were in our government, going down and working with companies like Facebook, or invested or involved with Facebook? They've told Facebook, like, hey, China, we're going to take over the world. You get your spot on the table. We need you to do this. They're trying to find out which American citizens have this stuff, so when whatever happens, they can find them quickly and get them knocked out of the way. Do you know what I mean? Like, what if that is...
Yeah, I think that it's... so here's where I'm going with it. And you're right. It could be very much they want to know where the food is, right? But I think it's probably more like they want to know where the bang bangs are. Well, there's probably a really close correlation that 99.99% of people that have a lot of food stored up also have bang bangs.
Yep.
So if I can't ask you to tell me which of your friends have bang bangs, because that would be, obviously a question nobody's going to want to answer, I could say, do you know anybody that's prepping? And then if I tell them who I think is prepping, then that gives them an idea of somebody to add to the list that's probably got, a collection of bang bangs.
It sounds like they're getting ready to go up against us or something.
They definitely want the data. They definitely want to know who's who. And that's why, the more you share, the more power you're giving them, right? And the more information they have about who's out there, where they are, what they have, who they associate with, what time of day they're active, when do they sleep at night. All of all that information is key to anybody that wants to come take over someone.
I don't know. It's very, very... very creepy to think about. Well, either way, to get back to this, it says that NASA wants to stop an asteroid by hitting it. It says to hear Elena Adams tell it, our planet is under constant assault from space dust and debris, chunks of rock and artifacts from the formation of the solar system, to name a few. It says, and these objects are raining down on us incessantly at bewildering speeds. It says, Earth gets bombarded all the time with this stuff. Adams, a systems engineer in Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, told the Daily Beast. It says, usually that's not a problem. The atmosphere handily takes care of the bulk of space junk that tries to get through, burning it into cosmic ash and that we mortals on land never have to worry about. But bigger things occasionally get through that can cause serious damage. In 2013, an asteroid the size of a small apartment building exploded 14 miles over Shablalinsk, Russia, creating a nuclear-level blast and sending shockwaves that broke windows over 200 square miles, injuring some 1,600 people. It says, well, we can go, on average, centuries or millennia without an asteroid impact that could, say, take out your hometown. On average, isn't always necessarily a good guide of the real next time something's going to happen, said Andy Rivkin. It says, we need an insurance policy. That's what they're saying. It says that's why on November 24th at 1:20 a.m., NASA is launching its DART mission to see if it can ram into an asteroid and knock it off course. If there was an asteroid coming towards Earth, we would want to be able to protect it to be protected, said Adams, DART leads mission systems engineer. We don't want to be dinosaurs. At 25 meters across, an asteroid the size of the one in Shablinsk falls somewhere in the category of bad news. big enough to cause injuries and probably scare the crap out of a lot of people, but likely not catastrophic. Something that's 1,000 meters wide, or about 0.6 miles, and we're looking at a civilization collapse. It says that, of course, NASA has identified nearly all the potential planet killers and doesn't expect them to come knocking anytime in the foreseeable future. It's the ones in the middle size range that are a bit more worrisome. An asteroid about 140 meters across, 1.5 football fields wide, could wipe out Washington, D.C. and take northern Virginia and southern Maryland with it. According to NASA, there are probably 25,000 near-Earth asteroids around that size circling the sun, and the agency only has eyes on an estimated 40% of them. If our telescopes were to spot one heading our way, there's nothing right now we could do about it. So, and especially if they're coming from the sun's direction, it's harder to see that way, or that's what they say, right? So it would not be able to, they would not be able to see it coming, or it would be last second. Most of these, they actually see after it has already passed. So with this, something, what, by the way, what is November 24th? Is that something else as well? Isn't that a special day of some, is that a deadline, or is that 22nd? When is Thanksgiving?
The 22nd is the deadline. Thanksgiving is the 25th. 24th is the day before Thanksgiving.
So the day before Thanksgiving, they are launching this thing. And this is something that was already pushed back, wasn't it? Or is this a different dart?
No, this one was pushed back. This is the new date. But yeah, I think November was the pushback from the summer.
Well, something weird. And double asteroid redirection test. That's what DART stands for.
And I'm sure we're going to, we started to hear about it. We heard about it when they were pushed it back. We reported about this in the summer. We reported about it, maybe a month ago as they talked more about the date closing in. But now that we're getting the last, 4 days from now, this is going to be launching. We'll probably hear a lot more of this story in the media, just because of the presence of the time of the launch.
It seems like we cover things and then people talk about them 2 days later, and then I see people tweeting us the stories 2 or 3 days later, and I'm like, we actually covered that on the show like 3 days ago. Texas Rob 49, thank you. Been a while. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Texas Rob dropped a Ninja Guinea in D Live. Thank you, Lisa K, for the diamond. Thank you, Mursa, for gifting a ton of subs. Bear Claws, again, thank you. Jeez Louise. Mursa 1 just gifted subs out to Venus L, Jeep 71, Deep State of Mind, Blowtorch Barbie, Life is Better on Stilts, Johnny Fry Guy. Mursa 1 just gifted 10 Marfia badges. That is awesome. Thank you, Mursa 1. They'll probably put you in the lead, I believe. And then Texas Rob, right behind, thank you, says Texas Rob got a CV exemption at work. Holla, holla. I'm surprised, actually. D. Susie, thank you for all you do to keep us informed. Blessings. Thank you, D. Susie. I appreciate that. And Maria Gonzalez, thank you. Lisa K. 23, nice car show going on. Hey, we really do appreciate all the support, especially over on D Live. D Live, the one great thing too is they don't take 50%, 60%, and all that crazy stuff. So thank you so much, everybody over there that is supporting. Not to mention, we need alternatives. We have to keep alternatives up. That's no joke, especially now. So I've talked about my DART. I've also talked about Hammer, Hypervelocity Asteroid and Mitigation Emergency Vehicle Response Vehicle. And both are, it's like they're doing all sorts of weird asteroid stuff right now. Why? And if they have labeled all near-Earth objects, do you think that they would tell us if one of them was for sure going to hit us in a certain day or time? I highly doubt it. Look at all the intimate details Amazon knows about us. Dex, do you want to talk about this? Save me from talking for a second.
Absolutely. So, we often talk about the social networks, whether it be, Fbook or Twitter or, the owner of this platform. But what we're now, I guess now what is happening is lawmakers are starting to turn their eyes towards people like Amazon. And you may not think about it just because you could think, I'm just going there to shop. I'm going to go buy a few things and buy them. And it's not to say necessarily that that's bad or good. However you want to look at it, that's fine. And, sometimes you're buying from Amazon. Sometimes you're actually buying from, small independent sellers that are just using the Amazon platform to sell. But what is worrisome is the amount of data that is accessible to someone like Amazon, right? Like they have your entire search history. They have every product you've ever looked at, anything you may have bought. And what are they doing with that data, and how is it being used? So I think that's where we're starting to see, these lawmakers are wanting to drill in on this to see if there are things that need to be regulated, or if there are things that are being done that are, not necessarily in the best interest of the public. So when you think about the amount of information, and then when you look at somebody like Amazon, they obviously have extended beyond just shopping. They got the assistant, the virtual assistants, the Amazon Echo and other things like that you can talk to. And, what data is actually being collected there, whether it's your voice, listening to things that are going on in your home, and how is that information, being used? And then you move on from the microphones and you think about all of the cameras, whether it's Ring doorbell or other systems that are plugged into the Amazon platform, and how is all of that data being used? And it's basically thinking about it now. We just went from this notion of, I went here to buy a product, just like I went into the store to buy laundry detergent at my local big box. Instead, I'll go online and do it. Now we've gotten to this whole realm of, there's this massive company that has a ton of data about us, everything from audio to video to thought process, shopping process, who do you buy for, what do you buy, what do you search for, et cetera. So a rather large amount of data that I think we're going to start to see more eyes focused on from our government officials to see if there are things that they need to do to help protect the consumers.
Well, they're already too far into our into our lives, and all these electronic companies are just absolutely digging into anything they can. They're worse than what, they're getting worse than what Snowden was talking about. It's not now the government, it's corporations that are in our lives. And then we have the two Russian boomers make flight near Alaska. So we moved artillery last year into Alaska. There was a lot of movement going on all this year. In fact, we have moved gear all over the country. If you are military or no military, then you know what I'm talking about. They are moving massive amounts of gear all around the country, and not like just normal drills. Like they're lining up our actual coastlines. I cannot wait until I can prove this, or until there's going to be actual proof that they are lining our coastlines with this stuff. And they're using the coastline bases to do this, but also they're storing outside the bases. You know what that means? Okay, I'm sorry. Not what it means. What I think it means. I think that they are storing all this military gear outside the bases because they're worried about the actual bases. And almost every time I've seen this, and the pictures that we get sent, they're all undercover. They don't want the enemy seeing it from satellite. But when you're driving on the freeway, especially the truckers line that we have for truckers around the country to report to us on, I believe, option 3 on the phone line, is people are seeing these military vehicles being stored in weird places, and they're always under these big tents. It's because they don't want people seeing where they are from space. They're moving these all over the place. And at some point, just like we called with China, I said they are making way more boats than they said they were making. We got that information a year before they claimed that, all of a sudden they were the largest navy in the world. That came out of nowhere. When I said that, nobody, except for the person that told me that information, nobody was talking about how they were building so fast that they were going to be the largest navy in the world. There was no mainstream music, no mainstream media, nothing. And then it came out true. A lot of the things that I'm very careful to say, unless I'm extremely sure that it's going to be said in the future, because I don't want people to go back and say, you said this and it didn't happen. The only things that people can argue with us on about is like the hot musket, which was if it was classified, they're not going to come out and tell you. Which, by the way, hot musket, before they had U.S. deployments on the border, was supposedly a deployment on the border. And then within 3 months, there was deployments on the border. So, sorry, it kind of seems like they just didn't want people to know because it was a big deal back then. It was a huge deal to have soldiers deployed on our border. We got a lot of crap and a lot of trolls out of nowhere. Well, by the way, after Hot Musket, before I had 6 or 7 people that always pressed dislike. After that, we immediately had over 80, and it was instant, and they're every single show. Now I think we have 88 that are like every single show. It's 88 dislikes. And like the rare cell phone video will get like 67 or something. It's a very specific number. So that's a very specific number of accounts that are doing that, right? But after that, we had so many trolls, and I'm talking about real trolls like a troll farm or something. And they were all trying to say that was debunked because, and by the way, the Pentagon directly responded to this show. That was what was claimed. Lieutenant Colonel Baldanza, the Pentagon spokesperson, responded and said, "No, there is no deployment. There is no Operation Hot Musket." Why would they respond if it was so fake? Why would they call Hal Turner in the middle of the night and tell him to take the story down? Come on, people. Wake the F up. That was all from a caller on this show. As far as the stuff that's going on with Alaska, I'll tell you right now, they have gear there. They have all sorts of stuff. The Russians are checking out what's going on there. And they are coming closer and closer every day. We cover this kind of stuff a lot. I'm actually surprised we have not covered Dex. We haven't seen this in a little bit, have we? At least a couple months, right?
No, yeah, it's been a little while.
As far as and
it used to be all the time, right? I mean, it was almost like we didn't cover it because it happened so frequently. It was like it was a non-event, but now
it was every other day.
Now you'd expect to hear it all the time, but you don't. But we have just recently started to pick back up.
So something is going on there.
And obviously with the conflict in Europe brewing and in the Ukraine brewing, and of course what's going on with China, but anything that we're doing with Russia over in EU, this is going to make things hotter, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I just wonder if the rhetoric is going to kick up in the next few days and we're going to see more and more that we're chasing away these planes, and why are we chasing them away? Why are they coming in the first place? At the very least, I can predict that the rhetoric is going to kick up a whole lot in the next week. And the reason I think that is these are always bunched. We're going to see more of these instances where we get in close encounters either by boat, where we're right next to a Russian boat, watching the news for that. This is super predictable. I mean, super predictable. Or more of these instances where we're chasing off boomers on our Alaskan coast, or of course anywhere in our next to our zones or our territories, right? So we'll see that. I bet you in the next week. Bet you $5. Other than that, U.S. Army Special Forces are shifting their focus to fighting China or Russia, and they're already practicing it in Hawaii. Okay. Dex, come on. It's like, how clear can it get?
Is that $5?
Yeah. It says U.S. special operators have played an instrumental role in the fight against terrorists and insurgent groups over the past 20 years. Now, as the Pentagon focuses on preparing for a conflict in a near-peer or peer military like China or Russia, the special operations community is looking for ways to remain relevant in a completely different type of war. It says Army Special Operations units are particularly concerned as they make up most of the U.S. Special Operations Commands, or SOCOM numbers, And it says that the Army Special Operations community is composed of several units with distinct capabilities. Generally, when people refer to Army Special Operations, or ARSOF, they refer to the Green Berets of Army Special Forces, the 75th Ranger Regiment, Civil Affairs, Psychological Operations, Night Stalkers, and the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. It says, though, that Special Forces groups specialize in unconventional warfare and foreign internal defense, training and advising partner militaries and guerrilla forces. So, like, popping out of the woods and taking people out. But Green Berets can also do strategic reconnaissance, counter-terrorism, and direct action operations, such as raids, if called upon, or exfils, extractions, right? 75th Ranger Regiment is the world's premier light infantry special operations unit. It specializes in large-scale direct action missions, such as airfield seizures and counter-T operations. It says Civil Affairs Special Operations bridge the civil and military domains and use soft power techniques to understand and win over local population. But basically it says that, let me go down here. It talks about all of the different ones, which, by the way, this is a really fascinating piece here. I'm trying to find here. Essentially, they're hold on. Yeah, it says, I don't believe we need to reinvent the wheel here. We just need to apply the lessons learned from global war on T to our old practices to meet new threats. The former operator added, we spilled a lot of sweat and blood in Iraq and Syria to let those lessons go unused. But we also need to be cautious not to fight the last war. That's an interesting comment. We also have to be careful not to fight the last war. They are changing everything about all of them. And by the way, they're making really kind of huge changes to at least 3 of those, right? The 160th. They're making 3 different changes, 3 big changes, and they are completely and utterly changing all of their training to dealing with China and Russia. So, I mean, I don't know how clear it can get to most people. And you know what's so funny is the majority of regular people don't even know we have issues with China. Do you guys realize that? Most people don't realize that we're actually close to a conflict with China and Russia. I mean, they know that Russia and that we have a history, right? They only know what's in history class. They don't know about the current situation with China. They might have heard something at work like, oh, there's no containers coming because of the staff or because of the CV. They don't know that China just told every citizen in its country that we were behind all of this last 2 years of covering everything and all of this, everything. They told all of their citizens that we actually attacked them with that it was a bio against them, that it was made in Fort here. So they are preparing their citizens to hate us and to go to conflict with us. Meanwhile, we're not telling our citizens anything. That's weird to me. Dex?
Yeah, I think, when I go back to what he said earlier in this, was that it was not that they would just reuse what they've done in the ME, right? Well, what we did over there, we'll reuse parts of that for what we do over here. It's just a different enemy. Well, I got to believe, and maybe who am I to judge? I've never been in their role. I'm not special, never been special, never been in any forces, let alone, the understanding how special forces operate. And my hat's off to them. They're probably really, brilliant people that know how to, get crap done in difficult situations, right? But I got to believe when we're going against, people who have rudimentary and no budget, it's in dirty sand everywhere, is a lot different than going into, Pacific Islands, which, by the way, we've done before, maybe just not with the same enemy, and going up against adversaries that have a budget and money and expensive hardware and weapons and things like that, not crude, rude looking devices that they improvise, right?
Yeah, and I mean you're not going against just a smaller group of T or S, right? You're going against the other world power. I wonder how they would use these guys. Honestly, I bet these guys will end up doing some crazy stuff in the next conflict.
Well, and who's to say, like, okay, like you could go up against a T group and, pick any one of the names that we've used in the past for any one of those T groups. They might have a couple of hot shots in there, but they probably don't have like an entire infantry of, badass commandos, right? Like we do. But I bet China does, and I'm certain Russia does, right? So it's like, and it's not that the commandos go against the commandos or anything like that, or special forces against special forces, but you're actually dealing with an adversary that can invest in the same thing you've been investing in. And who knows, and we don't necessarily know how much they've invested. They could have invested far more in it than we have.
I could see it now, like round 1, U.S. Special Forces versus Xishan Mountain Warriors. By the way, the Chinese Special Forces are unbelievably insane. Same with Russia. By the way, and I'm totally proud of our U.S. Green Berets. These guys are imagine MacGyver times every one of them. Every one of them is MacGyver. They do training 20. I mean, now I don't know if it's 24/7, but almost every single day they are doing advanced training. Their day might be going from like sniper school to training how to survive in the wilderness, and they don't just. The kind of stuff they do is like they tie weights to the bottom of their feet and make them jump from the bottom of the pool back up with their hands tied behind their back, and to pass is to survive. Like, these guys jump up and down. Ours is really crazy. But just imagine when you have that you've stolen our kind of strategies, because we've worked together with special forces with China and Russia. We've done these joint trainings and showed them some of the stuff. But imagine when you steal our kind of ways, and then you are also just totally screwed up, and you whip your people. I've seen them whip the Russian special forces, like actual lashings where they're scarred for life, where they keep them, they do waterboarding and things like this to the Russian soldiers, to the Chinese soldiers. Imagine if there was no like bureaucracy that the soldier could sue for being too messed up on him. That is China, especially. I'm very proud of our guys. I don't know if you could say like one is better than the other, but I definitely know that they don't have the same restrictions when they're training their guys. Like, they're psycho. Some of the stuff that they have done is just unbelievable. And there's this view that China is lesser than us, that I think that is very dangerous to underestimate your adversary. It's also very dangerous to just keep thinking that, because Chinese people are the Chinese culture in it. Education is everything. These are some of the smartest people in the world. Some of the smartest people in the world. As far as Russia, they are some of the toughest. And that does come from the actual climate, everything in some parts of the Russia where they get some of those guys from. You've got the toughest and the smartest, not necessarily the richest, right? So when you've got,
that's all right. Rocky always wins.
Yeah, except for in the Russian DVD model, they have the Russian version that there's a whole Family Guy episode about it, where the Russian guy wins. Anyways, on another note, if you are aware of what is going on, then if there's any inkling, if you have wanted to prep or get yourself prepared, I highly suggest My Patriot Supply. If you go through our link, what happens is, one, you will get a discount on certain things like long-term survival food. In fact, the 3-month supply is actually on discount. 2, this is a one-stop shop for everything, every kind of gadget that you can think of for survival if you're into the gadgets and everything else. But a big thing, water purification, all these things. By getting these, you're also helping out our channel. So if this is something that you're already going to do and you think that again, this is something that everybody needs to do, then if you can go through this would help us out greatly, because they end up giving us a commission every time we send over somebody to them, and then they give you a discount for coming over, and then at the same time, that ends up helping us. It helps you, and it helps the channel grow. So I appreciate everybody's support. Essentials of life there. The one thing I recommend, though, even if you don't go through these guys, water purification. Everybody should have some sort of form of water purification. They say 90% of us would perish, and that's because we would not have potable, drinkable water. Cannot say that enough. If we lose our grid, if our grid goes down, we would not have drinkable, potable water. Everyone should have at least water purification. So again, make sure to go check that out. marfooglenews.com/prep. Almost anything from battery supplies to power and lighting, stoves, fuel and lighters, first aid, medical, survival books, gear, all sorts of stuff, bags, everything you can imagine. And then, of course, U.S. calls out China escalation after Chinese Coast Guard fired water cannons at the Philippines ships. So this was a quick thing. It says that it says panel reacts to China's Xi calling President B his old friend in the teleconference between the two leaders. Okay, so I forgot to mention this the other day. That was the first thing that Xi said. He goes, "It's so nice to meet with an old friend." Dex, did you see that part? I don't think you watched this, did you?
No, I didn't watch it, but I did hear that, and that's kind of crazy, right?
So
old friend.
Oh no, you got to hear how he said it too. And I, by the way, this was one of the first times I could remember. I guess I haven't heard Xi actually speak, because you can hear his voice. He's got a very deep Chinese voice. Like, if you don't have the translation, right? He's and he's saying, like, "It's nice to see you, old friend." And it's like, it was almost like he's telling everybody else, like, "Yeah, this is my dude. This is my dude right here." The whole time President B sat there kind of squinting and says this, and he goes, and it just seemed weird. The whole thing seemed like, and then when they first say hi, they both wave like at the same exact time. It was just flipping weird. It's just the whole, you gotta go watch their meeting. But it says the State Department called out China for its escalation in the South China Sea, saying it directly threatens regional peace and stability while maintaining the United States' commitment to supporting the Philippines. The People's Republic of China Coast Guard blocked and used water cannons against Philippine resupply ships en route to the Second Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea this week, which the State Department says undermines the security in the region. By the way, B's ratings down as voters say he's focused on the wrong thing. Yeah, well, no comment. So obviously little things like this can actually blow up into big things. I'm not surprised by that. And then secret Chinese port project in Persian Gulf rattles U.S. relations with UAE. Dex, do you want to explain this?
Well, yeah, we've talked about China continuously expanding the ports, right? Their ports, and getting access to ports. And we've known about their investments or giving funding to ports and other things in different countries, pretty much loaning out money they knew they could never get back, but in turn, putting up ports for collateral. So in this scenario, what we're talking about here specifically is, a port in the Persian Gulf. So, this is kind of a big deal because we have relations with UAE there. There's a lot of things. We've got a lot of history in the Middle East, right? So having China sort of show up and start to have a presence in that and expanding their global footprint, so to speak, is definitely something that our, military and our sort of power struggle that we have around the globe is saying, hey, this is kind of not a good thing for us. And by the way, they did it behind our backs and we didn't know about it, right?
Shouldn't we be mad at the UAE for this? I mean, I'm surprised that.
Well, money tends to always win in situations like this. But yeah, the diplomacy with allies should also, be part of the equation.
Yeah, and it says that construction was halted. Alarmed U.S. officials warned Emirati government, a Mid-East ally, that Chinese military presence could hinder ties. Construction was halted. So, mind you, this is an ally that's working with the enemy, and they're building a military port. It kind of sounds like maybe somebody on our side, like in our government, kind of gave it the go-ahead. Maybe they had a secret call and said, "Oh yeah, we're working together. Yeah, let them build it." I think somebody found out their little secret. I don't know. I think something way bigger is going on, and that does not stop a conflict. If anything, what if one day we get the emergency alert system, every single thing goes to a thing, and it says, hey, China's our ruler now. And we've decided not to cause a world conflict, and we're going to toss power over to them, and the military's under their control now, and we just decided this would be better than nuking everybody to smithereens or losing millions of lives, and you'll find that these guys are really good. Kind of like in Red Dawn, where they talk about the hosts or whatever, right? That a Moonman says, Rittenhouse checkmark now on Ghislaine Maxwell. We need to make social media kill the hashtags involved with her and EpiPen leading up to the November 29th trial thing. Theta, we need to make social media. I don't know, actually. I'm a little bit confused on what that means. I don't know what the hashtags are. Backwards ingenuity.
Well, I think they're talking about there was all the hashtags that were used for Rittenhouse. So I'm assuming that's what they're saying. We'll probably see some evolution of those as the next big event comes up.
I get what you're saying. As far as I saw a few, and I'm like, what are you talking about? The calling him a white this and that without evidence. It's like, what are you talking about? People just label everybody. I mean, it's just labels being thrown around like crazy. Hey, Adam, what do you think about van life? Send prayers. I hope Dex, yourself, and families are doing well. Foogle fam strong. Keep up the good work. Backwoods ingenuity. I think it's better than regular life in a lot of ways. The fact that you can move around and do anything. I've got 3 small kids and a teenager, so I can't really do that. So imagine 4 kids on the road. I mean, like that's there's people that do it. I don't see how. And then, of course, U.S. Connecticut has left port in Guam for the first time since hitting seamount. Deployment. The Navy,
and I think it's headed your way, too.
Yep. The Navy has previously said it would get the damaged USS Connecticut back to its home port in Washington State for more extensive repairs. So it says the U.S. Navy Seawolf class submarine USS Connecticut reportedly left port in Guam earlier today under its own power. It's unclear what its destination might be, but we know the submarine is undergoing tests ahead of an expected voyage to Washington State. What do you think they're doing here? I know that we have plenty. Maybe I could get footage of it. Heck, I might be able to get footage of it getting towed in.
Yeah, probably not in the yard, but definitely out in the open water. You know, the other thing I think we brought this up when they were first talking about it in port in Guam was that when this has to come in, it's actually going to take up space, and it's not like there's just an open dry dock. It's just nothing's going on, right? It's like, okay, now we have to stop whatever else we were doing, right? Like the next sub we were building or the other project that's going on, and we have to now, open up this dry dock to bring this ship in so they can do these repairs, right? It's sort of, these types of incidents have, it's not just the repair of the ship, but there's other consequences to it. It's not like we have open bays just sitting around saying, oh, bring in the broken ships for repair, right?
Yeah, exactly. kind of a interest. Good. No, go ahead.
No, and it's also kind of questionable, like, what happened to it and how did it get into this position of needing, this type of repair, right? And that it's not just, we've got a story, but the story is the quote unquote official story from the quote unquote officials, but it also has a lot of background around it that sort of is suspicious for us to say, well, do we just take that at face value, or did something else potentially happen? And if something else did potentially happen, would they even tell us, or would they give us a story like this that says, I just hit an anchor under, a seamount that was not charted under the water and it ran into it, right? Could have done that. It could actually be the reason, but it could have also been something else, and they would have never told us.
It didn't. I'm sorry. I know it didn't, because the fact that China came out and said, we want you to release all the information about this, it tells me that it was some sort of event between the two, and they asked them to release it all, and they didn't. And they're not going to. I don't know why, though. It's like, why wouldn't China just call them out? Or maybe it's because it's embarrassing, or it's not. I don't know. It for them to say it was an uncharted seamount or something. I don't think so. That means, what were they doing? Were they getting super close to the shoreline or something? Were they going to pop up right next to China or something? I don't get it.
Or were they sitting on the ocean floor, like literally all the way down on the ground?
Yeah, but when you see the damage, it's like they hit something, front on. I don't know.
Right, but it's got to be on the bottom of the ocean. It's a seamount, right?
Yeah, but
I guess they could have been surfaced when this happened. They could have been surfaced, right? But I'm assuming they were underwater.
Or it could be on the coastline. It would have to be on the bottom of the ocean on the coastline.
Right, exactly. Yes. So they were underwater and they run into it. But they're running into something that's connected to the ground, so they have to be pretty close to the ground. And if they're in movement at that close to the ground, is that normal? I would think you go up and down, not lateral when you're within feet of the ground.
Well, no, but it's how fast they would go. And then also, I've seen, at least in movies, where those movies actually take a lot of time to try to get it accurate, where if an enemy sub comes by, they'll go to the bottom of the ocean, turn everything off, and not make any sound to try to, go dark. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, no, I get that. So imagine that. Imagine you're in charge of a sub and you plant it to the bottom of the ground. Is your next position to move forward, or is it to actually get up off the ground? Maybe get up high enough off the ground so that you're not running into elevation that's changing with the ground surface below the water, right? So you're not usually sitting on the ground and moving laterally or forward and reverse, right? Typically, I wouldn't think you're just going to scrape the sub across the ground.
Yeah.
So what did it run into? And why did it run into something that hit the bottom front of the sub, and obviously at a speed that was strong enough to cause that much damage? So that wasn't like it was moving at a snail's pace. It had to have a little bit of pace on it, at least, I would think. And, where was this? And if it's a seamount's on the ground.
Let's see. Let's show a picture too, just to remind people what the USS Connecticut looked like after. Let's see. Okay. Does it have a picture? Because the one I saw was unbelievable. I mean, it was really bad damage. Do they not have? Wait a second. Dex, can you help me find a picture for this? Because I thought...
Yeah, I'm searching too. I know we've seen it. It was on the front bottom, I thought.
This one shows... this one shows the front kind of dinged up, but the one I saw looked like a crumpled... Oh. No way. This can't be it. No flipping way. Look at that. Okay, sorry, but that looks like an explosion went off. I'm sorry, did they hit a mine? Like, how did this... I'm sorry, but look at that now. Look at the black. Was there an explosion? Why is there dark? Has nobody asked this question, or is this a different sub? Like, this doesn't look... If this is the U.S. Connecticut, do people see the black... Things are burnt.
Yeah, that's not it. I went to the original article, and the highlight of the sub context of that picture is from 2005. It's an old USS San Francisco in dry dock. That's not it.
Okay, so that must be from an explosion then. Why would they use that picture for the official Connecticut thing? Here's the Connecticut.
Yeah, it's MSM. It needs to have clicks.
They're horrible. It doesn't. I don't even think they've shown us like what it really looks like, right? Maybe they have. That was the picture I saw, but when it first happened. Why would they say Navy faces prospect that crash will force U.S. Connecticut out of service, and then they show you this? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, Dex, do you want to tell us about the? Do you want to tell us about, of course, the wonderful
Absolutely. Head over to marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show. Scroll down to web-only content and get the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey used to say. Get the entire other show. Get everything that we couldn't tell you about today, whether it's too sided on one side or the other, whether it's too hot for TV, so to speak. Everything is there. Find out when our current administration thinks he was born versus when he was really born. He'll tell you. It was kind of humorous. Another, one of his famous gaffes. It's there. Lots of other things going on from conversations about the trial and what went on in the press and different things that are talked about. Even some insights on Disney and some creepy stuff that they did in an old, not that very old, but an old movie. So we know that stuff's gone on for a while, but it was kind of an interesting one we saw. Lots more there. Go take a look. marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for the show. Scroll down. Web-only content. If you didn't see yesterday's, go check out yesterday's and the day before. It's always information that you need to know that we haven't been able to cover or we can't cover on the show. So, and if you're on YouTube, open the description. It's the first link. It's right there. Easy to get to.
Can I just say there's the message that's on the screen I won't repeat, but the Rosenbaum guy, 11 counts and 5 victims, 5 boys ranging from 9 to 11 years old. How does someone like that? How is someone like that on the street?
Idolized.
I personally think one and done. Like, that's it. If you get caught once, you should be away. Now, I've actually heard arguments that they want to they're like, oh, they have, we need to help them. And I've even heard some justifying it as like a preference now. That's when I will really just give up on humanity, when they say, that's when we'll have an asteroid hit. That's when we'll turn to salt right there, is when they start saying it's a preference. Project Exodus, I'm late, but I made it. We'll watch replay. Thanks, guys. Hey, thank you, Project Exodus and everybody else that supported us financially tonight. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you. Thank you for those who went over to PayPal. Really appreciate that. Again, you guys are our support. Again, we've been getting hit almost every show. In 2 hours, we say one filter word, boom, we get hit. So thank you so much. The more and more stuff that we talk about, the less and less we are not hit. So again, thank you, everybody. I appreciate everybody's support. I know Dex does too. Survival Living, thank you for heading over to PayPal during the show. You can always write it. By the way, CFP, you can always write a message there and have it read, or if you want to shout out another channel. But Survival Living, make sure to go check him out. He's a good friend of the channel. His channel is blowing up. Make sure to get over there and subscribe while you still can, because they're just going to cut off subscriptions for his channel. It's going to be so big that they'll say no. Just say no. Can't subscribe. You'll press subscribe and it'll be like, you got to do a test first. Cool test. Dex, Thank you.
Much love, brother. Great show.
Guys, my lung is really hurting. I'm not going to do a shoutro, but I do want to say a special thank you to Theta Moonme, Backwoods Ingenuity, Kristen Gary, Theta, again, Billy Leather, Diane, thank you, Majimi, Kristen Gary, Billy Portner, Witten Dupree, Deborah Pratt, everybody in the chat. Make sure to put an M in the chat for the mods. The mods, again, please respect them. They are there for a reason. They have done their time. They know exactly how the channel works. Survival, thank you. I know. Thank you. Says, just wanted to send support. Thank you. Greifel, Crop Duster, Life is Better on Stilts. Thank you guys for doing those M's. Again, or if you want to say something specifically nice to one of the mods, Lisa R. Hall, great woman. And all of the women and men that are doing mods right now are really amazing people. Make sure to go check out Chance's writing over on DLive. He does live writing. And then, over on DLive, it's easy. You can just click on their name and go over and follow. And then, thank you, Texas Rob 49. And tonight, number one leader, Texas Rob 49, over on DLive. And that's huge support by Texas Rob tonight. MRSA 1 is number 2. Thank you. Huge support from MRSA 1. Bear Claws, thank you. Matrix 45, Miss Jackson, Love Pugs 05, Defrustrated. In the 4th spot, we've got D. Susie, Maria Gonzalez, Life is Better on Stilts, Rabbit 111, and Kitskat, Moxie 71, and Lisa K23. Thank you for making it to almost every show. I don't think you have missed one. Big shout out to Able Bodied. I don't know if she's here tonight. Saw one of your tweets yesterday or the day before. I just hope you're doing okay, and thank you, everybody. Much love to everybody out there. Ilea, thank you. Everybody who, if you haven't checked out our voiceover channel, make sure to do so. Jammer1, thank you. And Dex, I appreciate you. You guys all have a good night, and love you.
Walking in the light of Jesus Christ. 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 Walking in the Jesus Christ. Walking in the light of Jesus Christ. Walking in the light of Jesus Christ.